Hello?
DNICE.
Yes, sir.
What's up, man? It's Premium Pete and Dallas Penn. We're sitting here.
Oh, man, my brothers.
Listen, we're doing an end-of-the-year episode, and we're paying and talking about the beginning moments of the Combat Jack show, and we had a couple people call in already and talk about their moments. One moment that I really, really enjoyed is when we sat down with you. And the reason why I say that for is it was early on. I don't think anybody really ever heard a DNICE podcast in that long of a format.
No, never.
And I had to give you the Kleenex, and it was so raw and real. I always Combat. Let me tell you something. Combat always tells people that was one of his favorite episodes, not because there was tears to your eye, because it was so real. We're talking about rest in peace, Scott Rock. But I'm talking about how pure it was. Like, tell the internet about that.
Well, for me, man. First of all, shout out to my man D Penn, man. Dallas hit me online and sent me a text like, "Nah, you got to do this interview." And for years, man, I never really talked about my story. Like when you're living in that moment, you never think that your story would actually resonate with people, and that's just kind of how I felt. Living in the shadows of KRS, and for so many years, I didn't think my story was that important. And I'll be honest with you, I was so reluctant to do the interview. Like, it was really because of Dallas and a couple of people who had heard, your podcast, and it was like, yo, you got to do this. Like, we want to know about you. And I will tell you, man, like, walking into that room with you guys was probably one of the most comforting feelings that I ever had, ever. And that's why it kind of like showed, like, even in the interview, where I just felt at peace, like I felt like, and not even in rest in peace, man, and Combat Jack, that's like, will always be my brother. But even with you though, Premium Pete, like when I walked into that room, man, like you guys just embraced me and allowed me to share my story in the most honest way. Like I'll be honest, I forgot that we were even recording. It was just like brothers just sitting there conversing about life, about the importance of our journey. I mean, all of us. Your podcast was still in its infancy. When I came into the music industry, it was still in its infancy, even though it had a lot of success. But that golden era was something that was extremely special. And to have people interview me, and especially, man, like, someone like Reggie, who Combat Jack, Reggie, those of you know, know his real name, to know that someone who, like myself, who had that journey, we could have done anything else. I mean, this man had a law degree, went to Cornell, like, could have done anything else, but hip hop was so important to him. And in that interview, he made me feel that he understood my perspective of hip hop, where it was, for me, it was just about being selfless, like I just wanted to be down. And, I didn't know that it was going to become what it did, but I just wanted to be down, and he knew the right questions to ask without feeling like it was being intrusive.
D, I think that a similarity for y'all is also the courage to be willing to reinvent yourself.
Yes, man.
Loving hip hop so much that, I'm going to reinvent myself. That way I stay connected to the culture. That way I can continue to help. I keep going back to this for the listener, but control the narrative. D, when I finally kind of got to talk to you on a personal level, it was in the digital space, and it was kind of early in the hip hop blog, kind of like the halcyon moments for hip hop blogs, and you had a great site that you operated with your photography, and
yes.
It was just a wonderful glimpse to see of someone who I knew as an artist, who you had already been DJing, so I had seen and been to parties where you had already been spinning, but now here was someone who was taking on image creating, and you were just really being so focused on the devices you were using and how you were selecting these images, and it was just like wow. Like, you just, but unafraid, because there's a vulnerability you have to have when you post a picture, which you think is nice, and other people might be like, what the hell is this, a picture of a close-up of a flower for?
Yeah, but and the best part about that was like feeling that freedom to do it though. You know, like I wouldn't have been able to do it without people like just supporting and people saying, "Hey, bro, I got your back." You know, like to this day, I don't have a portfolio. I don't have any of that stuff. You know, and I've literally been living my life just based on the love of hip hop.
Yes.
You know, it's strictly based on the love of hip hop, you know, and the forum that you guys gave me, man, with Reggie, with Combat Jack, was like, I can tell you right now for sure my life changed after that. Like
Hold on.
the emotions that I felt when I was sitting there, because it was a moment of that. I mean, honestly, like, that was like therapy for me. It was a moment for me to be honest with myself. That's the importance of that interview to me. And that's why it's been so hard to, I've never listened to the interview ever.
Really?
Like, I made it a point like this weekend because I want to start the new year. I want to be at peace with everything. And I'm going to sit back and I want to listen to it. But to be quite honest with you, man, like that was a powerful moment for me. And it was a crossroads for me of like understanding who I am and what my contributions to the music was, you know, and my contributions to not even just music, but just to people like myself who have,
The culture.
The culture itself, man.
Don't be afraid to say that. Don't be afraid to say that.
Honestly, no BS, man. Reggie's interview made me accept who I am, bro.
Yes.
Yo, I love
No
that
lie.
you're saying that, D, because you know that episode made, I think, so many people, and here goes my next question to you. So many people feel the same way. I mean, I remember, like, I'm the same person too. Like, people will come up, "Yo, Premium Pete, man, I love what you're doing." I'm like, no, blessings to you. Like, I feel like that was a time where you took your roses, because a lot of times you would deflect. I'm like, "Yo, maybe I'm not that." Not that you didn't think you were special, but maybe like,
No, I didn't. I'll be honest with you, I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't think anything that I was doing was special. I just thought that I was a role player, you know, and that interview and the fact that we got so deep with it, and you realize, like, wait a minute, like, wait, I've actually contributed to some amazing things, no matter what anyone else thinks. Right now, in this very moment, during that interview, I realized the importance. It's not even just about making music. I mean, Reggie was an attorney. You know what I mean? That a journalist, a scholar, you know, that understood everything that I'd gone through, and he was very careful with his questions, and he had a way of making everyone feel like he cared, and I know that's genuinely because he did.
Yep. You can't, you know, recreate that. You can't buy that, and you can't teach that, you know. But how many people, you know, how many people came up to me about that episode over the years? How many people have came up to you? Has any like people you don't even know?
Yeah, I can tell you right now. So that was probably one of the most important interviews that I've ever done in my life, man. People have come to me and they said how life-changing it was. I mean, I still, even before this conversation, I mean, people are still posting that interview, and that's like almost 3 years ago, you know, and you know, to knowing that, like, my whole mission with my career was, why can't I do what I love at whatever age? You know, look, I'm 47, man. I'm 47 years old, and I still rock some of the biggest events, and no one looks at my age. And I looked at my age, and I looked at my legacy and my history, and I was like, yo, no one wants to hear that. And it wasn't until, like, after I did that interview and people knew what the struggles were, that they started to, like, really pay attention. Like, wait a minute, what he's doing is special. And that, listen, man, I'm one to be honest. There are a few moments in my life and in my career that totally shifted everything for me. Totally shifted. You know, one of the most important moments of my career was the interview with you guys, the playing at the White House, one of Barack's last parties, which was amazing. And when I look at both of them, they both dealt with spirituality. It was like just being free and just being who I am. And I think that's what every artist and everyone that you guys have ever interviewed, they just wanted to be free, man, because they knew that, or not even they, we knew that you guys were one of us. You know, like we were the same. We had the same struggles. We had the same struggles in terms of like life. Like, come on, man. Like a man that this dude really didn't need hip hop like that. I was like, I'm still blown away. Like Rich Medina and I were talking the other day, and we were talking. Rich was like, "Yo, we went to school together. We went to Cornell." And I'm like, "You guys went to Cornell?" You know what I mean? Like that's so. It was hip hop on an educated level, and with a man who was an attorney who automatically understood how to take care of his clients and understood how to take care of people. He was that dude, man. Man, I'm honestly, man, like this was one of the hardest losses, and I will be one to tell you, I didn't have like the super, super close relationship with him. This was strictly based on this interview. He didn't represent me. We never broke bread together. Actually, I'll take that back. We went to a couple of parties and like some fun, some things that friends were doing, and that was the only time that we really dined together. But our relationship was strictly based on the love of hip hop,
sure,
and the love of our culture, and how do we make it better, and how do we make it honest, and how do we be vulnerable as men, and say, "Hey, I'm scared." You hear me? Like,
dig it.
And this was one of the biggest losses in hip hop, man.
Dig it.
Yeah, listen. I mean, that interview was groundbreaking, and I know for sure, like I said, we can't call everybody, but I know for sure that meant a lot to him. Every episode, I mean, or every interview that we have done, like, for other people, he would bring that up. So I definitely wanted to take the time to call you. Listen, D, happy and a healthy new year to you and your family. Listen, we're going to make sure we continue to keep, his legacy alive, and I know you'll be involved in that.
For sure. But I do want to say this one last thing, man. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but that interview was extremely important. But what I will say about Reggie, about Combat Jack, was that when you guys created Mogul and you talked about Chris Lighty, it took me almost a year to do the interview because I was exhausted. I didn't want to talk about that anymore. And I promise you, man, every conversation that I had with Reggie, with Combat Jack, was so comforting. Was like, no, I want the story to be the way it's supposed to be, D. Like, I want it to be honest. I will never change your words. That's the type of man we dealt with. That was a man of integrity, man. And I will always miss that. And it's very rare to find in our industry. Luckily, we found it with you guys, with D Penn. D Penn, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. You're my brother. Premium Pete, you're my brother.
DNICE, I do not accept you being a fan. All right, because
brother.
I'm cool, brother. I'm cool already. But I will definitely tell my mom that I'm friends with DNICE.
I am
and
your
she'll
friend,
be like,
brother.
and she'll be like, what?
She'll be like, crumbs on the
She'll
table.
be like, what? The human TR-808?
Whatever,
I'm like, nah, just call him D-Nice.
D-Nice.
Nah, man.
I love you, brother. I
Listen,
love you.
Love you, brothers, man. Seriously,
I don't accept you to be my fan.
Yeah.
No way.
We celebrate Combat Jack, bro.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right,
Forever.
thanks for
Forever.
calling.
Peace, D. Peace.
Peace.